What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Cool Colas here, and you are now tuning into a new video on my channel. For today's topic, we're going to be talking about Anthony Mackie and how he stated success is not earned, it's given. And ultimately, we're going to be talking about whether or not this statement is true. So let's get into it. I ain't gonna hold you. I actually was kind of surprised by Anthony Mackie here because he had a lot of deep and insightful things to say in this conversation that he had. And for a while, I thought that Anthony Mackie was on the Sambo Express, but I was actually impressed by some of the things that he actually brought up in this conversation. You know, one of them being his thoughts on how they were trying to kill masculinity in black men, and then also this idea of what success is, and also is success earned or is success given. Before I go deep into this topic, my initial answer just off the bat is, oh, it's true. It's damn true. But I want to break a few things down before I let you know why I agree with Anthony Mackie on his statement. The first thing that we need to take a look at is the context of what Anthony Mackie was talking about. Anthony Mackie was speaking about this in the perspective of what happens in Hollywood and how success is given to somebody. It's not earned by how hard they work. So now this goes into that conversation of whenever someone achieves success, is it by hard work or is it by luck? Before we go forward, it's important that we define success. So I'm going to give you my definition and my perspective on the word success. Success is an intangible term that signifies that one has achieved a certain level of personal fulfillment. But the thing about success is that it's not something that has a start point and then an end point and that's it. Success is like a continuous cycle. It's a continuous journey. So you may have reached success in one endeavor or one thing that you are fulfilled in, but there may be other things that you may want to create success around as well too, or find success in. So I say all that to basically say that this is not something that is an end all be all. This is a continuous process. And in the context of this conversation, when we speak about success, or at least when Anthony Mackie was, the idea was to talk about how success is equated to wanted or desired opportunities in this case. Now let's look at the opposite phrase and why it's untrue. The opposite phrase would be that success is earned, not given. The problem with this statement is that it creates this idea that anyone will achieve success as long as they work hard. But the problem with this statement is that it only puts together one piece of the puzzle, but doesn't add the other pieces as well too. But it acts as if that one piece is the answer to solving the puzzle altogether. What I mean by that is hard work is part of the goal to achieve a certain level of success, right? But there are other factors that play into this. One factor is the fact that some people are lucky. And the other factor is that some people have the right individuals in the right places that help them to leverage what they have done. It goes back to this idea that there are a lot of different quotes and pieces of advice that were given to us while we were young that we find out later in our lives are actually totally untrue and the opposite is actually true. Or they just don't have enough context to have a truthful definition or for it to actually be sound advice. And I'm going to give you an example of what I mean by that. Think about the statement, knowledge is power. That's something that a lot of y'all used to hear back in the day all the time. But this statement is kind of shallow and it doesn't really give the full picture of the truth. Knowledge isn't necessarily power. Knowledge that is applied is power, but we can even go further than that. Knowledge is applied power that is used properly with the right platform or the right medium. That would give us the entire picture of the way things go. Whenever you're reaching some level of success, typically there are a few things that can happen here. You can either have reached it by luck. You could have reached it by hard work with a little luck. or you could have reached it by hard work, with a little luck, with the right person there to help you to leverage it to get to where it needs to go. But to simply say that you earned it is making it seem like the only thing that you had to do was work hard and then you got to where you needed to get. The bigger problem from my perspective is acting like that is the norm. That is what we should be doing. But ultimately, there have been a lot of different instances that have disproven this and have shown that this is not true. One of the biggest instances is the whole college scam. And I've talked about this before. College, as far as formal college that is one of the most detrimental mechanisms to creating this type of mindset and this false illusion that does not exist. Because if it did exist, then every single person who literally went to go get a degree because they worked hard, they studied, they took all the tests, they passed, they got the degree, and then they were able to get a job, would have been able to actually get a job right out of college or soon out of college. Because one, not everybody goes to college. And two, they also worked for it. They had hard work. And so the success for them should have been being able to achieve that job that allows them to feel fulfilled in having applied the knowledge that they learned in school to the job that directly correlates to what they have done. But you have multiple things going on. You have people who never are able to find a job in their field. You have people who have to pivot and they have to go into different industries. And then you have people who didn't have to go to college at all. They can just bypass that process. Although this was told to many of us young folks as the way to achieve the American dream. And they were able to go from high school to getting into a job, or they went from high school to getting into entrepreneurship, or literally they freaking like were able to have an 8th grade education and then they became a multimillionaire. My point is that there's no one way to success. In some cases, in a lot of cases, it is not earned, and college is one of the biggest places where we see this. And I'm going to break that down just a bit further for y'all. Think about what they say now when it comes to college, and this was the shit that they weren't talking about back in the day, at least when I was in high school and when I was growing up. They always talk about how being successful post college and getting your job is not about what you know, it's about who you know. So now it got to the point where we have pivoted from going to school to get an education, to learn a skill, to be able to do that properly in some type of job, to now saying, listen, you got to find the right people, make sure you kiss the right ass, and then you get in the places that you need to get to. But if you don't find other people, you don't network properly, you don't kiss the right ass, or you don't have nepotism because you're a privileged white person, then you are going to be shit out of luck, even if you're the smartest dude who has ever lived. To a certain extent, Anthony Mackie made this statement. He basically said that you have these people who could work hard, they can do all this different stuff and then not get anywhere. But somebody who did the exact same thing, or maybe even less, met the right person and they were able to get into the space they needed to get into. And a lot of people online, when I actually posted this as a reel on my Instagram channel, were talking about how, you know, Anthony was just talking about from a Hollywood perspective, and obviously this is true. But the problem is, this also applies to regular life as well too. This doesn't just apply to if you are a big star. This also applies to normal, average, everyday people who are in the workforce, who go to college, who go to school, and then want to just make a living for themselves. And just because I like some of y'all, I don't like all y'all, because some of y'all be on here samboing and mayonnaise babbling and all that. But just because I like enough of y'all that I want to share this story, I'll share this story. So for those of y'all who do not know, I am a chemical engineering degree holder, and I actually am a triple minor as well too. I have a minor in chemistry, mathematics, and paper engineering. Do you all know that I struggled to get a job in chemical engineering after years of applying to multiple jobs? And I'll tell you one thing, I've applied to probably somewhere between 200 to 500 jobs. And don't get me wrong, I've got some interviews, so I'm not going to act like I haven't. But you always get that letter of, you know, we're glad that we could interview with you and all this other stuff, but we moved on to other candidates. And yes, I did do the whole thing where you practice the mock interviews. Yes, I did wear the suits and ties. Yes, I did look people in the eye to the point where it was awkward. Yes, I did shake the hand firmly. And yes, I did network with as many people as I possibly could. And to no avail, I was not able to find that job. But do you see what I mean by that? Some people can get a job right out of college because they met the right person. Somebody could get it 2 years in. Somebody could get it 3 months in. It doesn't matter. The point is that there's no end all be all to that person being able to gain success. And success at that point would have been being able to take the degree that I earned and then being able to get a job in it and then succeed in it. My point here is that I worked hard for my degree, but that did not lead to me getting a job opportunity in my major. And chemical engineering, if most of you all know and probably aren't living under a rock, is one of the most high pressure degrees to actually achieve. And on top of that too, it's supposed to have one of the best returns on your investment. So in other words, if you go to school for a chemical engineering degree, there's a good chance that you're going to make a decent amount of money. And in that case, it could be anywhere between 60,000 out the gate to about 90,000 out the gate. And, that could change up or down depending on the job, obviously. But my point is that these are the statistics and these are the things that people typically know about having a chemical engineering degree. My point here is that I've done tons of different things to try to put myself in a position so that I can succeed and so that I can get a job and fulfill the idea of me being able to use my degree. But no matter what I did, I was not able to get to the point where I was successful in that endeavor. And then I had to get to a point where I had to be able to make a living for myself. I had to be able to sustain myself, and I had to pivot and then find other opportunities at a certain point. And then I had to find success in other places, and I had to pursue other endeavors and other things as well. My point in saying all of that is that if it was all about just working hard, then I would have been able to just get my degree and then get a job. But of course, there's other issues too. There's the pipeline between schools and jobs as well too. The idea that these two don't connect. You getting a job, you going into school and getting a degree doesn't mean that you are going to have some type of pipeline into having an internship and then getting a job. Now, I don't want y'all who are part of the all police and you're part of the whole I'm the exception to the rule. I don't want y'all getting in the comments and say, well, I was the engineer and I got a job, so what were you doing wrong? What did you do? I don't want you all to get into that bullshit because I know how some of y'all are. Y'all get special and y'all start hoeing on here, and I really don't want to hear it. My point is that it's not something that is a all in all type of deal. It's not something that every single person can do and then be successful later down the line. Because some of y'all will get in here and talk about how, well, that was your story, that wasn't mine. That's the whole problem. If you go to college, you spend that type of money, you get a degree, you should be able to get a job because that was the whole purpose of you getting a degree in the first place, becoming educated and then getting a job. And literally, you don't really do either, if I'm being totally honest. You learn some things in theory and then you don't get a job going out of college. You have to, again, meet the right people, find the right person who's able to connect you to the job that you are looking for. And most of the jobs that you go to, they're going to say that you need experience to get experience, especially if you are a newly graduated college kid who's now trying to get some type of employment. So this is not something that is the norm for someone. This is something that happens to some people and not others. But that disparity allows those who are able to achieve that goal to look down upon those who were not. But that's part of the issue, is that if you have a business product like college, a very expensive one, and you go there to be able to achieve something and you work hard, you get that thing, and then you cannot get a job, that's absolutely absurd, because then what was the point of you actually getting it in the first place? The other reason why Mackie's point was true was because acting like success is not given and earned is acting like you did everything by yourself, which is some bullshit. Everybody gets some type of help at some point to get to where they need to get to. Now, the idea that you were able to earn it based off of you speaking to the right person and things like that does speak a testament to you persevering. But as far as earning it, that's part of the problem. The thing is that you actually were able to speak to the right person at the right time, meaning you got this opportunity. But somebody could be just as smart as you, they could work just as hard as you, or they could work harder, or they could be smarter and then not get that same opportunity that you did. And then someone will turn around and say, well, they earned it and that other person did not earn it, which doesn't really make any sense. That has nothing to do with earning something or deserving something. Let me ask you, male supremacists who are watching this video, a question, especially if you don't like what I have to say and you think I'm whining or whatever. Do you believe that you and your people earned your success when they had the Homestead Act of 1862 and land, millions of acres of land were distributed out to you, and I guess some immigrants as well too, so that you can reap the benefits of something that foundational Black Americans and their families once had? And then you reap the benefits of the wealth that accrued while having the land that was stolen and was distributed to you as if it was not stolen in the first place. Do you believe that you earned that? Do you believe that your family earned that? Or do you believe that it was given? When you enslaved, or your family enslaved, mass groups of Black people for free labor to build up an entire country, and you reap the benefits of what was built, was that given to you or was that earned? I would ask that question as well too. In the Wagner Act of 1935, when union workers or unions excluded non-white workers from being able to get these great paying jobs with pension and healthcare benefits and job security, allowing white workers who were able to reap the benefits to reach the middle class and even beyond, would you all say that you earned that or that it was given to you? And don't get me started on you Nepo babies who get some type of opportunity because your daddy or somebody like that owns the company that you're working for, even if it's a big Fortune 500 company or if it's some type of company that has some level of prestige. A lot of y'all are getting that because you, again, know somebody who works there or have some type of nepotism that allows your ass to get in this position, but you didn't really even have to work for it. You would have been put there anyway. I want to be clear, I'm not diminishing anybody who actually has worked hard, but what I'm saying here is that you didn't just get everything popping on your own. You had help. Somebody helped you somewhere along the way. It wasn't just a thing of you worked hard and then you earned what you basically have right now. What I'm saying is that there were other pieces to the puzzle. Some of y'all's asses got lucky as well too. Some of y'all's asses had the right people. Some of y'all's asses really didn't work hard at all. You just had the right gimmick, or you did the right thing, or you went viral, or you did something that led to you having some level of success, which was probably given to you by the fans, the algorithm, and people who saw what you were doing and it caught fire. So once again, that was actually given to you. You didn't really earn it. Somebody gave you that attention that resulted in you being in the place that you actually are at in the first place. So let's just be real for a second. You didn't just work hard and then you got there. My overall point here is that Anthony Mackie made a lot of sense, because what he learned is that the system is not fair. It's not a thing of you work hard and then you reap the benefits of your hard work. In a lot of cases, you actually are given these things, especially if you were in the dominant society. You're given things and you pass those things down, and wealth is accrued over time from the benefits that you've actually reaped, while other people are left behind, and you can look down on them and say that they're lazy, they haven't worked hard, and they haven't done all of these different things. And then for some of you Negroes who have this battered wife syndrome from the effects of what I just said, a lot of you all will go and say, well, ain't nobody give what I got to me. I was worked hard for what I did. I grinded and I hustled and I yada yada. Somebody gave you that shit. Somebody gave you that. You got a loan from somewhere. You got money from somewhere. Someone helped you out. Because the reality is that if all y'all had that same spirit and that same story, then the reality is that Black people would not be in a permanent economic underclass, as Dr. Claude Anderson has expressed millions of times. So in other words, if it was really popping like that, there would be enough of a wave of us to be able to compete with our non-black counterparts, but we're not. Which is why I'm saying that what happens is some people end up being able to profit off of maybe some of their hard work, or they may not work hard at all. They just got lucky because they did something that became trendy or cool, and then they were able to bounce off of that. Again, in some cases you did work and you did do what you needed to do, but then you got lucky because you were also able to get the people to put you into the right place, whether you want to accept that or whether you don't. But then there's some people who literally are just as talented as you, if not more, just as hardworking as you, if not more, just as smart as you, if not more, who don't get anywhere because they do not leverage the people who are able to get them into the place that they need to get, which is why I say that it is given, not earned. All right, y'all, hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed what I had to say, and I'll definitely have more to come in the future, so make sure you stay tuned. In the meantime, I'd love it if you like the video, subscribe, hit the share button, and also hit the bell icon so you get notifications for whenever I come out with new content on this channel. Other than that, I'll talk to y'all later. Peace out, y'all.